Mm. Here. You're done. You close the tab so I can set my
Yep, I
phone up
will.
there.
I'll
Thank
set it up here
Thank
for you.
you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Man, what a turnout. Good thing we had this space. What an honor. So, thank you to everyone for coming to honor the life of Jerry Lamb. On behalf of his family, they greatly appreciate all your love and support you have given so far. Please bow your heads and join me in an opening prayer. Dear Lord, we gather today in gratitude for the life of Jerry, for the memories that live within us, and the love from him that brings us together today. We thank you for the joy he brought to our lives in so many ways. As we remember him today, please fill our hearts with peace and comfort, knowing he is with you. Strengthen us as we come together and help us to celebrate a life well lived. Let your presence be felt among us as we honor Jerry. In your loving name we pray. Amen.
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 I'm going to read some scripture that the family had chosen to share with you, starting with Psalms 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Proverbs 21:3. To do righteousness and justice is more desirable to the Lord than sacrifice. Galatians 6:9. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Philippians 2:3-4. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourself, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of the others. When Aunt Marilyn shared these verses with me and I was reading through them, preparing, all I can say is, wow. I think in my mind, it really exemplifies the principles that I seen my uncle live by. Determination, integrity, humility, and love. Next, I'm going to share with you who my uncle was to me. I've been blessed in life to have many great male role models, and my Uncle Jerry was definitely one of them. My earliest memories as a child, Uncle Jerry were in his house here in Port Angeles. I remember playing in his magnet room, and then became his shop full of magnets and gadgets. He always demonstrated these magical tricks with his magnets, trying to show us how they worked. And he always had lots of fun toys around. I especially remember the Honda Odyssey that we ripped around the property and rolled over all the time. You have to come flip it back over for us. As I got older and became more mechanically inclined, that magic that my Uncle Jerry was always trying to show us became more real. And I was always impressed with how intelligent he was in applying his technology to solving real life problems. Uncle Jerry actually let me come live with him for the summer after I graduated high school and lived in his little lake cabin in Squim. That was a summer of life lessons, good life lessons. I worked with my Uncle Steve that summer building houses and then lived and played with my Uncle Jerry. It has been a memory that I will always cherish. What I learned about my Uncle Jerry that summer was more than I knew about his intelligence, his success, but really about his humility and his inner child. It was clear to me that no matter how big of a deal he was an even bigger kid. I loved it. I would come home and he'd be rocking out in the garage on his drums, or he'd be ripping up and down the driveway on his snowmobile at 10 o'clock at night. In case you were wondering, no, there was no snow. I also remember him working. We worked with him on his little cat he had, and we were clearing the trees out, building this track, because he always wanted to build a go-kart track to race in the dark with night vision goggles. Never did get to see that, but I loved his vision. So yeah, that summer I learned an important life lesson: work hard and play hard. In my adult years, I think I got to appreciate my Uncle Jerry even more. The thing I loved about seeing him were our talks. Finding out about what he was working on, the adventures he had been on, the amazing people he had met and worked with, which probably many in this room that I've never met before, but I've probably heard a lot about you. More than anything, he truly wanted to know about me and what I was doing and really listened and cared about what was going on in my life. He always made me feel that he was proud of me. Last time I got to spend this kind of time with him was a couple years ago. I was on vacation with my wife's family at the beach and took the morning to go visit him. We drank coffee. He showed me what he was working on, and then we just talked about life. And I'll always really cherish that and remember his perspective on life, family, people, the world, and God. I will miss his hugs, his laughter, and our talks. To me, Uncle Jerry was a big man, not because of his size, but because he dreamed big, lived big, and loved even bigger. Next, I'm going to share some words from my Aunt Marilyn that she wanted to share. Most people have heard Jerry's side of how he met Marilyn. Marilyn remembers seeing this good-looking guy driving around town in his GTX now and then. She always hoped for a chance to meet him. That chance meeting happened one day when she was walking home from school in the alley. Jerry was there in the carport working on a yellow 1957 Chevy that she hadn't seen before. Probably looked something like this one up front. As she got closer, she told him what a nice car he had. That was the beginning of 48 years together. Marilyn was always in awe of Jerry's ability to figure out how things worked. He could fix almost anything. Jerry always had a strong work ethic and wanted to provide for Marilyn and Brandon. He worked as a laborer at one company where he would come home wet, muddy, and cold. At ITT Rainier Mill, he would come home several different times and tell Marilyn how he was almost killed. Those times they would drive out to the spit and dream of him getting out of there. One of Jerry's traits Marilyn admired most was his generosity and his compassion for others. He was a believer in random acts of kindness, which we have been proud to see our son inherit, Brandon. Jerry's always did things anonymously, not for recognition. He would take coffee to an older gentleman that sat outside the to someone they were raising money for. After leaving, he went around the block and got back in line and told the teller that Lola said she just did not donate enough and doubled his donation. In the beginning of their marriage, they needed a truck and had asked someone for a loan. They turned him down, which hurt his heart. Years later, these people needed help themselves, so Jerry gave them that same amount every month for a while. He was always wanting to help others and was concerned for their well-being. Later, as he developed his technology, his end goal was for two things. He wanted to put his technology in military applications that could help with reliability and keep the young men and women serving our country safe. He always said, quote, "What if that was my son?" He had always commented, "These people volunteer to serve our military. They deserve the best equipment possible to ensure they make it home to their families." He felt his technology was superior to existing technologies in place today. His other goal was cancer research. He developed patents for cancer technology, but found that realistically, it would take around $10 million for further research. There had not been so many things that his success and his technology would have enabled them to do for others. Jerry will always be remembered for his compassion, enthusiasm, big bear hugs, and his love for others, including animals that he also contributed to. Marilyn had felt something slightly change in Jerry within the last month or so of his life. The day after his death, Marilyn had the sense of needing to look at the book Jerry had in his nightstand. It was a devotional book that his sister Cheryl had given him. Jerry would read it in the morning before getting out of bed. She instinctively knew there was going to be a page about his death. This is the last page that he read just days before he passed. "I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. My perspective is unlimited by time. Because I am infinite, I'm able to see, understand everything at once. This makes me the ideal person to be in charge of your life. I know the ending of your earth life as well as I know its beginning, and I know everything in between. You are finite and fallen. Your understanding is limited and far from perfect. So trusting in me rather than relying on your own understanding is a more reasonable way to live. It is also the most joyful. The end of your life is not to be feared. It's simply the last step in your journey to heaven. I can see that even as clearly as I see you right now, moreover, because I am the Omega, the end. I am already there. I will be awaiting you when you reach this glorious destination. So whenever you're feeling the strain of your journey through this world, fix your eyes on the end and rejoice."
Oh.
Next, I would like to introduce Bernard, Jerry's good friend. He's going to share the eulogy.
I want to thank everybody for being here. And I know people came from a long ways away. And we'll pray for a nice, safe return home tonight. And I want everybody to have a good time getting together and remembering my best friend, Jerry. A compass is used by people to navigate through the world. It is a simple instrument. It has a magnetically charged needle that always points north. Jerry had a compass installed in him when he was very young that always navigated him to do what is right, to tell the truth, and to love others. Jerry was born in Forks, Washington on March 28, 1959, to Charles and Gail Lamb. He had three brothers, Steve, Mike, and Mark, and two sisters, Cheryl and Linda. Mark passed away in an accident when he was a young boy. Jerry went to grade school in Forks, where his family had a logging business. They moved to Port Angeles in 1969. Jerry attended junior high at Roosevelt and high school at Port Angeles High School. While he was in school, he played basketball and football. He received a Doctor of Motor certificate from his auto mechanics class. He was always very mechanically inclined and could fix almost anything. There wasn't much he couldn't figure out how to do. When Jerry was young, he helped his father keep the logging trucks going. At an early age, he learned how to work on heavy equipment. Jerry bought and sold cars when he was in high school. He always loved cars. Shortly after graduating high school, he went on a road trip to Phoenix, Arizona. He came back with a yellow 1957 show car. One day when he was working on the car in the carport, when Marilyn walked by and saw him with the Chevy. She was raised with her dad having classic cars, and she had a love for the old classics. She complimented him on his new car, and it ended up down on the ground, handing him tools and parts. That was the beginning of 48 years together. They had countless cars and trucks over the years, including a black 1977 Smokey and the Bandit Trans Am that he decided to paint himself. He painted several coats of hand-rubbed candy apple red lacquer over a gold metallic base. Marilyn had people every day asking if he would paint their cars since it was such a beautiful paint job. He was a very talented person. After dating for 2 years, Jerry and Marilyn were married. They had one son, Brandon Lamb. Brandon inherited his dad's ability to figure out how things worked, except with Brandon, it was with computers. They were always so proud of how smart Brandon was, but especially how Brandon helped other people. They loved that he would anonymously help others. Helping people was a big deal in Jerry's life. Jerry worked at a gas station while in high school, did manual labor at Del Hur, worked at the city garage doing maintenance on their vehicles. Later, he pestered ITT Rainier so much that they finally hired him. He worked there for 14 years. All along, he was doing research and development on magnetic technology. Today, you woke up, brushed your teeth, took a shower, left your house, got in your car, came here on a road, signed the guest book, and sat in a chair, taking it all for granted. Where was I? None of that happened easily. It took a huge industrial effort, wood to build the house, hundreds of miles of pipe to bring you the water, chemicals and engineers to put the toothpaste in the tube, miners to mine the iron, to make the steel, to build the car, oil companies to refine the fuel, to get here on the road that oil built, to sit in a chair that came from a tree, a mine, or an oil product. Jerry understood this and learned about heavy industry. All of the industries I just mentioned have been made better, more efficient, and safer with Jerry's technology. When he worked at Rainier, making acid to make wood pulp to make paper, he performed maintenance on the equipment throughout the plant. There, he learned to be a fixer, an innovator, and most of all, to do whatever it takes to get the job done, keep the plant running, so he could get back to one of his favorite pastimes, pranking his fellow workers. Jerry loved all things magnet. Magnetism is a phenomenon, and no one really understands it fully. It is all around us, every day and everywhere. Jerry was fascinated by it, and especially the interaction between a magnet and a non-magnetic conductor like aluminum or copper. He was brilliant. I would say a prodigy when it came to magnets and all things mechanical. He quit Rainier Mill to work full-time on developing his new technology, while Marilyn worked at Swain's General Store. At a young age, he developed a magnetic dyno for the Navy. It was used to test the Mark 48 torpedo motor, something the Navy was having problems with. This motor needed to spin up under loads to simulate water and run until exhausted, while the technicians monitored it through its run cycle. How the hell such a young man can get work like that is beyond me. And now that he is gone, I will probably never know. At the end of it, the Navy handed him a check and it was game on. Taking what he had learned from the magnetic dyno, he developed the magnetic coupling. After years of development, he finally had a new magnetic coupling that he was able to start selling. His technology was put in high-rise buildings, wastewater treatment plants, coal-fired power plants, Navy ships and submarines, and countless other applications. His couplings would reduce the need for critical alignments between components. They would isolate frequency and vibration, reduce maintenance, and increase the longevity of machine life. The coupling technology will have long-ranging effects well into the future. It will save energy. It will help power plants burn more cleanly. It will help submarines be quieter. Jerry's magnetic coupling will be on all submarines moving forward. This will make the world a safer place, which was one of Jerry's longtime goals. His contribution to our national security cannot be overstated. His favorite technology was putting braking technology on a jet car that was being driven to break the land speed record. Jerry's brakes saved the drivers several times when parachutes failed to deploy. Some of Jerry's favorite times were out on the lake bed at night after running the jet car. We spent many nights out on the lake bed, enjoying the stars and the fire. We would often visit local hot springs and hang out into the wee hours of the morning. Some of my fondest memories are those days and nights out on the lake bed with Jerry, but we'll get back to that later. Jerry loved his family and his dog. He loved his brother-in-laws Darren and David Bain. They enjoyed poker nights together and long visits around the fire. He always told Marilyn, "I just love those guys." And they were what Jerry missed the most about moving out of Port Angeles. He enjoyed his visits to his sister Cheryl's place in Longview. They always had the most spiritual discussions and great family times together with their husband, Mike. Mike's humorous cards were always Jerry's favorite to receive in the mail. Jerry and Marilyn spent Stephen and Sonia Beck from Indiana while on vacation in Maui several years ago. This friendship turned into this turned into a friendship that Jerry valued very much. Jerry would have these long conversations with him, then laugh and tell Marilyn what a funny guy he was. Jerry just loved him, but moreover, Jerry trusted Stephen with the most intimate details of his magnetic research and often turned to him for advice and counsel. Stephen was on the short list of people that was one of Jerry's closest confidants. They could talk about anything and everything for hours. Stephen is a special person and was an important part of Jerry's life. Jerry and Marilyn moved to Ocean Shores, where Jerry was developing a new magnetic technology that would make the world cleaner and safer place at the time of his death. He had been happy that their friends Belinda and Jerry Smith moved close to Ocean Shores, so Marilyn had a close friend there. When Jerry Smith passed away a couple of years ago, Jerry did what Jerry does. He went over to their property, helped to clean up the property, brought in a tractor, and spent quite some time making sure that Belinda would be okay and could manage the property. That's just the type of person Jerry was. Jerry loved his wife, God, and country above all else. This love was also shared with his friends. Anyone who knew Jerry was touched by this love. And if you are here today, you know what I mean. I met Jerry when I worked on the jet car, the North American Eagle. Jerry came into the project on a safety-related theme. Our friend Ed Drumhiller once told me, anyone can go fast. It takes a man to slow down properly. Ed was a deceleration engineer and worked on Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo. Jerry came into the program to build out a magnetic braking system for the jet car. It had never been done before to help slow down a car going upwards of 800 miles an hour with non-friction brakes. It was one of the systems on the jet car that we never had to worry about much because it worked every time. I knew from the very first moment I met Jerry, he was special. He was smart. He was fun. He gave everybody respect and never tooted his own horn. We traveled to remote lake beds like Gerlach, El Mirage, and Rogers Dry Lake Bed at Edwards Air Force Base. Everywhere we went, we did our job and we had fun. There are so many stories that I can share about our experiences with the jet car. Here are a couple. Gerlach was so large that we could lose the sight of the campsite with the semi and a large Quonset hut structure. A strobe light was installed on the top of an antenna mast so we could find it in the dark. About 12 miles from camp, there was a beautiful hot spring. We would go there at night and put our lawn chairs in the water and sit and have beer and tell stories. One night, on the way back to camp, we decided it would be a good time and a good place to have a rocket flare fight. We used rocket flares to warn people downrange when the jet car was going to run. These flares are the real deal. They launch from a tube, go 2,500 feet up in the air, and deploy a 30,000 candle power flare on a parachute. They are installed in commercial life rafts. Don't ask me how I get them. There was a stack of rocket flares in Jerry's truck and more in Steve's little Subaru Brat. We were traveling about 100 miles an hour, which was generally the speed you went anywhere you went on the lake bed. We decided to shoot one over at Steve's car. I'm not sure exactly what Steve thought when a rocket passed a few feet in front of his windshield, but soon there was a flare coming back at us. It was game on. We laughed so hard we were in tears, and for about 5 miles, we had a very high-speed flare fight. We laughed so hard our sides hurt, and we had tears coming out of our eyes. The next day, when we drove out to the hot springs, we picked up numerous spent flare cartridges and remembered the fun we had the night before. When we traveled with the jet car, Jerry and I and a few others would camp out on the lake bed, while the rest of the team would go back to the nearest town and get hotel rooms. This gave us a chance to bond around the campfire. Men bonding around a fire, to me, is something that must go back to our prehistoric roots. It allows people to spend time together, look into the fire, and get to know each other. Jerry loved to sit around the fire, anywhere. One time, when we were camping out at El Mirage, we ended up by the fire. Our semi-driver, John, ended up with Steve's rental car, or with Keith's rental car. I had built a large set of steel ramps and a sawhorse to help get the jet car into the back of the semi. We thought, wouldn't it be fun to set up the sawhorse a couple feet from the fire and put the ramps there? No telling what people would think the next morning. Then we thought, hey, we should make some tracks up to it with the rental car, then go on the other side of the fire, back up the rental car, and make it look like we landed it there. We put numerous approaches and landing tracks down on the lake bed. Somewhere in the hundreds of photos I have, there are pictures of John in the rental car on the ramps, head out the window, fist clenched, giving a wahoo. The next morning when the crew arrived, they saw the sawhorses, they saw the ramps, they saw the tire tracks and the rental car. It didn't take them long to piece things together in their minds, and we let them run with it. Again, Jerry and I and a few others got the chance to giggle like little girls because we knew what really happened. I think to this day there are probably team members that still have a mental image of a Chevy Impala jumping the fire. The pranks went both ways. One time, when we were out at the Alvord Desert test site, one of the local support guys got Jerry good. He pointed over to a puddle of oil under Jerry's big blue truck, and I mean big. I think it was an F650. Jerry saw the oil, and we freaked out. We were 125 miles from the nearest parts store, and there was oil coming out from underneath his truck. We got under the truck and noticed that there was oil on the side of the transfer case. We scratched our heads. We could not figure out where it came from. There was no seam. There was no crack. It was baffling. We started to think about what we would tear apart to find the problem. The next day, the farmhand led us on to the fact that they had poured some waste oil on the lake bed under the truck. He took his hand and wiped some onto the transfer case of the truck. Jerry laughed his ass off. He knew he had been had at his own game, and he loved that guy for it. Jerry always loved a good prank. A good prank is harmless and fun, and it doesn't hurt anybody, but maybe their feelings for a short time. He would think for hours and sometimes days on how to pull off a perfect prank. He's the only man who I know who had a fart machine attached to the bottom of the table in his executive conference room. He had a remote control and would sometimes leave the meeting, go into the hallway where he could see into the room and activate the machine. He would giggle as the people he had left would look around the room and try to figure out who. The first time I actually worked for Jerry, I sent a certified welder to Port Angeles to weld the supports for his elevated magnetic train lift. Our relationship grew as I saw what he had and what was in his shop. After that first job, I never charged Jerry a dime for anything I did for him. I believed in his work, in his vision, and his mission. We worked very hard on the linear motor to hopefully someday launch aircraft from carriers and small support ships. We built a 200-yard-long test track at Port Angeles to demonstrate this technology. Jerry's goal was to try to bring the warfighter the tools they needed to prosecute war. He believed in peace through strength. He hated war, as we all do. But he knew it was important to have the tools that would be robust, simple to do the job. Things that a 19 to 24-year-old person could understand, maintain, and work on. Our work on the launcher gave us a chance to meet admirals and captains and many enlisted men in the Navy. Our travels took us to Lakehurst, New Jersey, where everything catapult and arresting is tested. We got to go on the Nimitz and pull tape measures and look at the nuts and bolts of launching and arresting gear systems to fully understand them in their complexity. We designed a system that would take up far less room, be lighter, safer, and easier to maintain than the status quo. We ran into what some people call the military-industrial complex. We fought that for many years, but it is a very powerful and real thing. Along the way, we met some incredible people. Captain Jim Patton is a nuclear physicist, a nuclear submarine commander, scientist, and all-around wonderful person. We met former Chief of Naval Operations Admiral Tom Hayward, a graduate of Annapolis Naval College, a fighter pilot, a test pilot, aircraft carrier captain, and carrier strike group admiral, and finally the top man in the Navy, the Chief of Naval Operations. Commander Mike Morgan, who's here today, catapult and arresting gear officer, Navy pilot, and program manager at China Lake. Of the people we met, these three were our strongest advocate for the linear motor technology. Jerry and I will always be grateful for their support and, moreover, their friendship. They opened many doors for us, did technical research, created papers, and supported us throughout all of our endeavor. Jerry is a hugger. Many of us here today have enjoyed or been traumatized by one of Jerry's hugs. The first time Jerry hugged Admiral Tom, the Admiral stepped back and made it clear he had never been hugged by an adult male. But in that moment, Tom experienced the love and admiration that hug conveyed. After that, Tom looked forward to Jerry's hugs. Jerry and Tom remained very close personal friends until Tom's death a few years back. We attended his funeral in Annapolis, Maryland. While there, we went to the Navy Museum on the Annapolis campus. We were amazed at how much innovation changed everything. We saw the original patent models for the screw propeller, different inventions throughout the museum that made life better for the sailor, for the Navy, and for humanity. I hope someday to have one of Jerry's original magnetic couplings on display in Annapolis. It is one of those important innovations that has changed everything in the Navy. Jerry's internal compass guided him through life. He always wanted to contribute to society to make things better. He did this through his hard work, research, and an internal drive that most people will never know. His personal discipline to push forward to achieve a goal is something that most men will never know. When you leave here today, remember to follow your own internal compass, the one that will point you forward to telling the truth, being good to others, having faith in God, and loving your fellow man. That is what Jerry would want from all of us, and that is what we should give back to Jerry. Jerry was my best friend, and I will miss him. I stuck it.
All right. Thank you, Bernard. So you were one of those people I heard about in some of those
You'll
adventures.
see some of my sleeping too,
Okay.
along with Jerry's artwork.
Thank you, Bernard. Appreciate it. At this time, the family would like to open up the mic for other people to share memories, stories, thoughts about Jerry. Um, if there's anybody that would like to come share, or
Hello. Hello. Hey, for those of you who don't know me, I know many of you, but not all of you. I'm David, Marilyn's brother. That was quite a nice sweet snap, Bernard. Very nice. Mine's going to be very brief. I'd like to start with a good afternoon and oh, I got off track. I'd like to start by saying that Jerry was a very thoughtful and a giving person. And I'm thankful and proud to have had him for a brother-in-law. Jerry pursued and lived his dreams. You all hear? I'm not hearing it. Jerry pursued and lived his dreams and poured all aspects of his existence and being into doing what he loved. And in my eyes, he truly spent his time here on earth successfully. Even though he had so much more to contribute with his technologies and to humanity in general, Jerry had an exciting journey, which he once told me, might have been twice, in one of our conversations, that overall he's had a good life. He did and was involved in things that most people will never get to experience. And this, he was deeply and sincerely thankful for. My brothers, Darren and Robert, and I were privileged and blessed to get to work with Jerry on his LEDX project and his launcher. We were involved with that too. It was really neat to be part of that, and it was fun and exciting, and I'm thankful for the experience and all the quality time that we got to share with Jerry. One I really enjoyed personally, I loved watching Jerry do his demos, whether it was one person or a group of people. It was always really interesting to see people's facial expressions and hearing their comments they'd make about what they were seeing and witnessing in all his different little test beds and all his little everything he was doing out there. You could hear in Jerry's voice and see on his face the energy, the enthusiasm, the joy, the passion, and confidence he had for what he was doing. Jerry was truly in his game. To my brothers and I, and probably many, he was brilliant, and we see him as a genius. One thing Jerry really enjoyed, which Bernard touched base on and looked forward to in our time off on the weekend, was our poker games. He really enjoyed those. And they got pretty crazy sometimes. Some of the games we played, the pots got huge, and we were all afraid to bet. Puckering. Anyhow, it was a time to set aside serious things and just goof off and laugh and have fun, and that's what we did. And these times together, working, relaxing, playing, are all wonderful and great memories. I will finish off here with Jerry is deep within our hearts and will always be in our cherished thoughts. And Jerry, I know you're listening. We all love you very much and miss you. If anybody has anything to share, feel free to come on up. Thank you. Yeah.
Yep.
Hello, hi, I'm Mike, and Carol's my wife over here, and I was Jerry's brother-in-law. Whenever I was in trouble, my wife calls me Stanley, and Jerry called me Stanley all the time. Jerry was a funny guy, always sharing, helpful, giving, and appreciative, and he gives, like you know, big hugs. He loved Maryland and was very proud of Brandon. He was always proud of him because how he could survive in Seattle. Jerry and Marilyn had some very nice homes. My favorite was on Place Road, north of Port Angeles. You probably remember it. Right on the beach. I found out something about Jerry when we were walking on the beach. He would only pick up the heart rocks. And the next time I was up there, I had a pocket of hot rocks. And when we walked on the beach, he would say, Eureka. He didn't figure it out until he moved his trailer down to our house. One morning, I threw a whole bunch of them out around his trailer. And then I heard, you rascal. We used to make things out of driftwood. He had tons of driftwood on the beach. He was making something for me for my beach house, and we live in the country. He told me it hadn't all come in yet. That's not by Amazon, that's by sea. Finally, when he finished it, it was a prehistoric ostrich creature. He hit the head hadn't come in yet. He got a lot of strange looks driving down I-5. He said, one time, Jerry, no, there's another story I got to him. One time, Jerry and I was driving up to Ocean Shores from Longview. We stopped and got coffee, and I grabbed a newspaper. I came across this article. Police officer pulls over school bus driver. Police officer asks this woman, have you been drinking? The lady said, oh, you know. And Jerry's over there laughing. I'm laughing. Then every time we said something, one of us would say, oh, you know. The next week, I made him a t-shirt that said, oh, you know. He wrote it, he wore it all over. When Jerry would call me, he'd always ask me, have you started your beach house? And I would say, I'm busy. I've got all kinds of projects, and I've been collecting all this stuff. I've got buoys and glass and rocks and all kinds of stuff. And I guess it's time for me to start this beach house. So I'm gonna dedicate it to Jerry. It's gonna be Stanley and Lamb's beach house. Now, it's shocking to me that he's gone. He was a great guy. I know he was a believer, and I'll see him in the future.
Perfect.
Hi, folks. I'm John Higley. I was one of the original 5 guys who started the North American Eagle Project because of my B-52 crew chief background in the Air Force out of high school. I eventually got my degree in teaching and then was the educational outreach representative for the project. And Jerry Lamb had a big impression on me in that he provided me with an understanding of his technology that he developed for the car and its braking system on the rear wheels, which I used in my presentations in going clear down to Eugene to a middle school and out to Forks to a high school and giving presentations on the car project. And what fascinated the kids most was the innovation that he applied to the rear wheels braking system. And I'll always remember Jerry. He struck me as a very positive, caring gentleman, and I'll miss him too.
Hi, folks. I'm Ira. I work for the Navy, and Jerry's the smartest material scientist I've ever met. He has more integrity than nearly anyone I've ever met. And meeting him changed my life. That's all I want to say.
So my name is Mark Seward. I worked for Jerry at Magnaforce, one of the machines. And I haven't seen too many of the others around here. Remember the day that I decided to stop and put in a resume over there. And put in a resume and got home and said, the phone's for you. It was Magnaforce calling. They want you to come in for an interview. It was a most interesting, so I turned around, go back. They had Jerry and a number of the others in there. Wanted to know what all I knew and everything. They didn't realize that at another machine shop that was doing a lot of other work for them. I was the one that was doing machine work, but they're kind of surprised to find that out. But I got in there and yeah, mine's kind of going blank. It does that. Guy said, we got to do something about, that outfit that you had on. I said, no. Jerry and I had a talk. Said, you're all going to have to wear suit and ties now. I said, you're out of here. That I made the comment, I said, well, nobody's perfect. False. Jerry's never one to let something like that go. I said, oh, really? And what are yours? Well, actually, I have 2 faults. They're both closely related. Yeah. One, I'm too good looking for my own good, and I'm too humble to admit it. And Jerry knew he was in for a fight from then on. But
I really enjoyed working with him and for him. Whenever something would come up and I happened to have an idea on it, whatever it happened to be, metallurgy, whatever, there's a, let's see what our resident metallurgist has to say, or resident janitor, whatever it happened to be that day. But every morning, first thing to do is go in and I'd have a joke for him and everybody else. And since that day, every time I'd meet Jerry, said, uh-oh, here it comes. I can't help it but to joke around. I really like it. But again, I love working with Jerry very, very much. I find maybe 2 years ago, came out, he gave me a hug. Nice to give you a friend. Oh, by the way, Jerry, uh-oh, here it comes. Anyway, we walked out into the shop there and had the CNC machines, and I would absolutely didn't know anything about CNC. I knew how they were supposed to work, but they're running, and I looked at it. And being a conventional machinist, I know how computers work and what something is supposed to be given time. I knew nothing about it, but I saw something wrong and I reached over and hit the emergency stop on the machine. And everybody stopped. What was that for? I said, well, I don't know anything about your machine here, but I'm pretty certain there's something wrong in your program because it's repeating the same deal over and over at a time that it probably shouldn't be doing. Jerry turned around and said, check it out. I said, well, what's the story? He said, he was right. Not that I'm that smart, but I don't know. I miss him very much. They always had goodies coming in, pizza and everything else, and I'm probably the only vegetarian he ever had working for him. He still couldn't figure that one out, you know. But I got over that. Brought it to him. I'd caught into the group. But once again, I'll never forget him. Good man, cared about people, genuinely cared about people. We had a lady from our church that her husband had left her 7 little kid. She had to move, and I asked her, I says, can we borrow the pepper trailer, the big red one they had? So what for? And I told him I had to move her, and he didn't hesitate. Here, go. Anyway, thank you.
Hello, I'm Cheryl, and I'm Cheryl, and Jerry was my little brother and my dear friend. I will miss his voice and that laughter that put joy back in my heart, even at hard times that we shared together. I will miss his kindness and the quiet strength when I needed it most. I will always remember the love hug that he gave. And you all know that hug is just, it went into your soul. So I'd like to share with you the last three words that I think best describe Jerry. That he was genuine, he was very passionate, and he had real deep faith. So, as well as the memories of the last precious days that we had together. So the word genuine. Jerry was who he was, no matter the company with whom he presented himself. He was authentic, he was sincere, and completely honest in what he believed and how he felt about you. Jerry prioritized the well-being of others above himself. He was a true friend and a support to those that he loved. He was often seen helping someone he deemed in need, be it a big hug, a word of encouragement, or just stopping to bless them with whatever provision that he had. So I just wanted to share a few scriptures that I feel speaks about my brother. Matthew 7:12, do unto others what you would like them to do unto you. 1 John 3:18, let us not merely say we love each other, but let us show the truth by our actions. Jerry treated others with the same kindness, respect, and fairness that he would want for himself. And it was already said this one, Philippians 2:3, don't be selfish, don't try to impress others, but be humble, thinking of others as better than yourself. Jerry demonstrated serving others without seeking any personal glory or even elevating himself above others. And then there's no greater love than to lay down one's life for friends. Jerry demonstrated his selfless love and sacrificing by putting the interests, the well-being of others first above himself. He sacrificed his time, his resources, even his own comfort and health if he believed someone else would need him. It's like a word is passionate. I'd say he was focused on what can be rather than the problems that were before him. Jerry had determination, enthusiasm, and the willingness to commit time and effort to what he believed in. He used his knowledge and talents to improve what was set before him, such as always making life better for Maryland, investing in their homes, and improving his technologies. He was passionate as he saw the need for providing safety and well-being for others. In my years walking along with him, I witnessed his devotion as he cared for our grandma and grandpa Lamb when our father had cancer and their mother on her journey now. He was intensely focused and had an unbelievable energy as he sought to solve the problems before him, often losing track of time, meals, or even sleep. While seeking, he just had to find the answers. He was indeed a problem solver. The last conversation with Mike and I was only a few weeks ago at our home. Jerry was very reflective and grateful. He spoke a lot about his time with Marilyn. He spoke a lot about Brandon. He spoke a lot about the homes that he loved so much. His words to us were, quote, I've had a great life. Marilyn has been my anchor. He knew that through every new idea, and we know there were many new ideas, and with every loss, she believed in Jerry completely. He also said, I've got to do what I love, sis. I've met amazing people. My technology is all over the world. He also said, I wake up every morning and say, good morning, Jesus. I love you, Jesus. And what are we going to do today to save the world? So he said to Mike and I, so if I was to die today, I'm good. I know where I'm going. So don't you be sad for me, Cheryl. Can you imagine what heaven is going to be like? We just had that special bond. And so the last thing I'd like to say is he believed, the last word was faith. He believed not only in what can be, but also the unshakable trust and confidence that God was in control of his life. He was positive even in the most challenging situations. And then I also wrote the same thing that was in his devotion that Marilyn had shared with me. And it's felt in his heart. I just felt in his heart. Maybe he was going to meet Jesus. I don't know. But I also wanted, so that I want to share Revelation 12:2. So let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith. Don't let your hearts be troubled, but believe in me. Jesus promises, in my house there are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. But I go to prepare a place for you. I will receive you to myself, and there I am, and there I would be. And he believed that. We talked about that a lot. In Revelation, God himself said he will be their God. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and death shall be no more, neither shall there be mourning or crying or pain, for the former things have passed. So in conclusion, The emptiness and sadness in my heart is real. In our hearts, it's real. But Jerry will be greatly missed. But oh, the joy of knowing Jerry has been amazing and all consuming. So I just want to end with one comforting promise in Psalm 16:11. In God's presence is fullness of joy and pleasures forevermore. Just as Jerry did, I love each and every one of you. Thank you. Love you, Brandon. I love you, Madeline. All my heart.
Okay. Is there anybody else? If not, I'd like to welcome Brandon Lamb up, Gary's son. Share some words about his life.
Cool, my glasses on something. I wore my best shirt. Well, watching these photos, I went through these for hours 2 nights ago, and it was pretty hard going through those, but more difficult here. So first of all, hello everyone. Writing this was a difficult activity. I set out to take trips down memory lane. I will try my best to get through this, but when I do choke up, just give me a moment. Let me collect myself to get through this. While it seemed unnecessary at first to write an introduction, I realized that, in fact, I have not met everyone that is or was a part of my dad's life. With that, I'm Brandon, the only child of Marilyn and Jerry. Born November 16th, 1980, making me 45, and the last tail end of the great Gen X. Those in my age range understand this means I was born to my boomer parents, but we'll come back to that later. Texting with my mom while having thoughts about what to say here, what not to say. I realized, oh, yeah, there will be mixed company. I probably shouldn't say that. To which she replied, yeah, no, I don't want any politics at all. So, okay, fine, mother. I'll try to keep this for polite company. So we won't talk about how much my dad hated those stupid masks or how I get a snicker out of texting him whenever I would see people driving in the cars alone. What I will touch on, though, is that I am thankful that my dad and we did align politically. The times that I was able to make it back home for holidays, it did make that a hell of a lot more enjoyable than your cliche family holiday debates. At the end of 2020, I started a personal journey as I looked around and went, holy shit, I need guns and ammo and food and supplies and medical training. Seeing what seems to be the impending potential of some kind of social, economic, or political collapse of our country, things are pretty crazy. I lost 60 pounds, started working out, preparing myself, my friends, my family. The reason I make a point of this is that the years of preparing, the one thing that I was not prepared for was loss of a parent. I don't know that you can really prepare yourself for that. Many primarily know my dad for being the inventor for Magna Force, Magna Drive, and very possibly being a world-leading expert on rare earth permanent magnets. However, what I want to share is that he was my dad and what it was like growing up as his son and only child. So chronologically, and this is about 24 minutes, the earliest memory I can recall were of living in a house in Port Angeles by the old Roosevelt Junior High School on a typical American street with a vague recollection, I think, of a neighbor girl. I can barely recall the layout of the living room to the bedroom, which may just be from old photos. Most of my childhood memories begin right after this, when my parents bought a house on Monroe Road, a 3-bedroom, 1-bath on 5 acres with a carport. I must have been around 4, as I remember going to kindergarten at Monroe Elementary, 1 mile at the bottom of the road, which no longer exists. This is where the majority of my childhood was shaped. That was such a great place to grow up. I had tons of woods to play in, forts to build, and for many years, Grandma Gail lived through the woods along a trail that I would take to go there, where she still lives there today at 91. We always had pets growing up: dogs, cats, goats. Rex was this black and white tuxedo pit bull terrier. Best damn dog we ever had. He was always with me playing, exploring in the woods. Truly a boy's best friend. Bridget, which I had to I had to ask my mom if I was remembering the name right, was this black, I think lab or some kind of black lab dog, and she used to scratch her rear end on the side of the house. We had a couple of German Shepherds, some St. Bernards, a Rottweiler, had cats at various times. One year, my dad decided to get a pair of goats. Mitch and I think maybe Betty, we were trying to remember what the girl's name was. He built Petrovich the best damn doghouse shelter, complete with an extension cable for a heat lamp. Sadly, Petrovich got green around his neck from the leash and chewing on the power cord, and my dad had to put him down. There is a reason for calling this out, but we'll get to this. As the only child, I got to be the one to feed the animals, instilling some responsibility at an early age. I know our parents were proud of the fact that I always got myself up in the morning for school, fed the animals, made it to the bus stop, and went to school. One year, probably around middle school, while feeding the dogs in the morning before school, I found Bridget underneath a hot tub deck, overlooking the road, where I walked to the bus stop. It was a very where the red fern grows moment for me. Whew. This was the first time finding a dead pet. My dad buried her in the backyard, and I remember him telling me how she probably wanted to see me off to school one last time. I believe it wasn't too much longer after that. For a Christmas or a birthday, my parents got me Ellie. She was this golden color, probably some kind of lab, but she was a great dog as well. We had her and Rex until we moved to Squim. Growing up, my parents were always working. My dad worked at Rainier Mill most of my younger life, graveyard shifts, nights, sleeping during the day, while I'd be outside in the woods playing. Around 1994, he started Magnaforce and was still constantly working. And my mom was working at Payless and Swain's, and then she had her own antique and retail stores. Before starting Magnaforce, I remember my dad converting the carport into a garage and working out there on his inventions. My dad really never drank, or at least not around me. He did smoke pot. He completely hid this from me growing up. It wasn't until I was an adult, I believe around 18, right after graduating, that I even came to learn this. And then some memories clicked, recalling times where I'd be out in the garage finding film canisters that I would open, and they had a funny smell. And I was just completely oblivious. As an adult, I never did smoke with him or have a drink. Neither have really been something I've been into. Now, looking back, of course, I wish I could have one of those moments with him. Growing up as a young kid, my mom was mostly the enforcer. My dad got to be the good cop. I don't think they actually planned and agreed on that, but she was the one that was mostly around during the day or early evenings. I grew up in a time where kids actually got disciplined. I got spanked. I got hands, spoons, switches, belt. One of the last times I recall being punished, I don't remember what I did, but my dad made me go outside and find a switch. It was a very cliche moment, and I did, in fact, go out and come back with the wimpiest stick I could find. As you can imagine, that really pissed him off, and I'm pretty sure I got a worse spanking. While I have grown into an adult, I'm 6'1", around 205 pounds, and my dad was always a large, imposing man who instilled the fear of God into me as my dad. Even as an adult, he was taller and bigger than me. I know that my dad loved me. He loved inventing, and he loved cars. He had so many vehicles during his life. My mom recalled a story about him painting a car himself, But what she didn't mention was that he was painting with some kind of compressor paint machine, which was in the back of the garage, and there was a back storage room behind the garage. It was back there that I had one of those, 80s or 90s horse on the spring that you could bounce on, and I had just been in there, and he knew that. uh, oh yeah, so sorry. I had just been in there before the paint compressor literally blew up, exploding the garage and the back room. What I remember hearing as a kid was this explosion, going back out there and seeing that my toy was destroyed, and then promptly going into the house to cry on the couch. My dad, in a panic, thought I was in the back room and that he'd probably killed me. He did eventually come inside to find me just crying on the couch. I don't think we did any custom painting after that. As a kid, like many kids, we were made to participate in various events like sports. My dad, was not really around or present very much for these because he worked. One year, I think fourth and fifth grade, my mom signed me up for soccer. We were the Blue Bombers. It was mostly her and I attending these as my dad was always working. I know that after going down memory lane that this bothered her, but I actually hated sports. I never understood as a kid why I was being made to do it, and I get it now as an adult. But mom, don't hang on to any regret over this because I really didn't care. I've never carried any regrets that he wasn't there because he was there when it mattered. Some kids may harbor memories of absentee fathers. I actually don't, and I'll get more into that. While my dad may have been busy, I do remember him trying to do things with me. He tried to take me out shooting once when I was around 10 or 12. He spent an hour cleaning the Cosmoline storage grease off that Ruger 1022. He packed us up, drove us up into the mountains to shoot. It would have been an awesome father-son experience. Unfortunately, he didn't have hearing protection for us, so I remember us getting out of the truck, him setting up a target, and the very first shot was it for me. I was scared and cried, and I just remember going to sit in the truck while he fired a few more rounds before we left. I remember him being mad about that, and we never did do that again until my adult life. Fast forward to today, where firearms training is a huge part of my life, and I'm thankful that we did go out to do that sometimes as adults. I also remember him trying to buy motorcycles and an Odyssey buggy, my cousin Matt mentioned. I was really always too scared to drive it myself, but my cousin Shauna, she had no fear. She went full throttle around the property and ended up rolling it. So while my dad worked a lot, and while he may have missed sporting events, my memories are mostly of myself not being interested in or caring at all about doing the things that most kids would want to do or enjoy. It will probably be a regret to carry with me, but I know that he tried, even if I wasn't ready. In addition to soccer, I did join orchestra in middle school, and I have clear memories of a concert at the Port Angeles High School, and he was there. I was terrible at it. I didn't really like it, but he was there. I quit playing when I started freshman year of high school. I went to join the orchestra, and there were other kids playing there, and I realized just how behind and bad I was, and I quit right there. The one and only family vacation member was when I was, I think, a mid-teenager. We drove our motorhome to Eastern Washington to spend a weekend with his brothers, Steve and Mike, at some cabins by a lake. Well, the toilet was leaking, so it smelled like crap. At the end of the weekend, his brothers were away, and we were packing up to leave. And while turning the motorhome around to leave, he ran into the corner of a cabin eaves and made the front corner of the motorhome come off. Being the genius that he is, he used duct tape to fix it. He tried to hurry up and get the hell out of there before his brothers came back. I distinctly remember it was 104 degrees on the drive home with the duct tape flapping in the heat, and it smelled like shit all the way home. Best family vacation ever. A large missed opportunity growing up for me, having a dad who was brilliant in mechanical, electrical, engineering, mathematics, motors, tools, building, and fixing things. I missed the opportunity while growing up to take advantage of a huge wealth of knowledge and experience to learn these highly valuable hard skills. The last of my early childhood are strong memories of some of the foods he loved to eat. Beef jerky, fresh crab, salmon, black licorice, which I hated. Near the late 80s or early 90s, there was this fast food place, Hush Puppies, next to the old gas station at the bottom of Monroe Road. They used to sell these 1-gallon chocolate milkshakes, and we would get burgers, huge fries, and split a milkshake. What I remember the most is that he really liked mushroom burgers. I have a vivid memory of him and I getting this one time, and he drove us up around the hill that overlooked the house on Monroe Road to eat in the truck. And these disgusting damn mushroom burgers smelled so bad that I literally had to puke. I think he had to stop eating licorice at some point because of diabetes, but he always liked his crab. Teens, going into high school was when my parents bought me my first computer, and that's where it all started for me. While I had no interest in the things my dad was into, computers was, for me, life. I understand now as an adult the passion, the interest in working 18 hours on the things you love. Thankfully for me, like my dad, working in computers has always been more than just a job that many people may dread going to or that they consider just work. I've always been blessed by doing something that I love. Starting at Olepen, March of 1999, the end of my senior year as tech support, I grew up there. And to this day, John Himmelberger is a friend that I can stop by and talk for hours like it was yesterday. There were times working at Olepen where I would be up until 3 or 4 a.m. working on servers. I see now how this mirrors my dad's passion with magnets and inventing, and he must have passed down his passion and interest in creating and building things, even while different industries. I remember the late nights he would spend out in the garage building, and he probably did this to his final days with the dogs keeping him company downstairs. From a teenager in high school up to becoming an adult, life is a bit of a blur. At the end of my senior year of high school, 1999, we moved from Monroe Road to a big fancy property on 26 or 27 acres with a house and cabin, multiple garages, and a pond that the county had classified as a lake. We had paddle boats and some cool St. Bernards. And Daisy, the horse, he loved that horse. He loved riding around on his big industrial lawnmower and mowing the lawn. He did try to get me to do it once, and there's been a couple times where he'll make me mow the lawn and kind of do it crappy so that he wouldn't have me do it anymore. At this house, my parents again tried a pair of goats, but sadly, one committed suicide by hanging itself in the barn and drowning in the horse water trough. And my mom came home another time with Max the Rottweiler trotting around with the other goat by its neck. I didn't remember until coming across graduation photos a few months ago that many of my family was there for me. All of my grandparents, my Aunt Jessie, I'm pretty sure Darren and Jackie, my mom, and my dad. It was there for the things that mattered to me. As an adult, I look back on growing up with some embarrassment of how I was as a kid and wonder how my parents were able to deal with me just doing dumb stuff. Mom, could you have been more patient? Sure, maybe. But I want you to know that even while we reminisce now and then about how things were, I don't have any bad feelings or regrets. However you handle being a mom, I don't steal. I don't lie. I work hard. I'm responsible. I help friends and family where and when I can. I don't do drugs. I don't drink more than a glass or two of wine. So don't hold any regrets about yourself or how I was raised, because I don't. Something that was instilled to me by my parents was helping others. You've heard it multiple times today, and it really was genuine. I imagine that every funeral we go to, people say that, yeah, he was a good guy. Yeah, he was generous. And my dad actually was. So something that was instilled to me by my parents was helping others, even when it may hurt them financially or they really shouldn't. Around 2010, After I had bought my house in Squim, I was about $30,000 in debt with credit cards, and I was about to wreck my credit just by defaulting. This was when my dad instilled the value of protecting my credit, and he wrote me a check to pay off this debt. Over the years, my parents have bought me various cars, and I was pretty irresponsible and dumb with them. In 2011, I was about to quit Olipen and I had no idea what I was going to do. I was looking at jobs in Seattle, but how would I pull that off? We went to dinner, and after talking, they gave me a check for $10,000 to start a new life. It was then that I packed up and started my life in Seattle. I wouldn't have made it out of Squim in Port Angeles and made my own way without my dad's support. At some point in my adult life, your relationship with your parents starts to change. Suddenly, you have talks as adults, not just as the kid. My parents never disclosed details about their finances or medical, health related things. It wasn't until the past 5 years or so that I even learned my dad had diabetes. I never knew about the various financial adventures they had to deal with over the decades or many personal stories from him growing up as a kid. I will hold on to the past few years where I got to talk to my dad about more personal level things. I'm grateful for the conversations we did get, sitting by fires and talking on the phone for hours, which he would talk for hours. From politics to life, love, aliens, and UFOs. I recall my dad talking about, calling Grandpa Charlie and talking for hours. And now I kind of wonder who was the one talking for hours and hours. I will hold on to the times I needed help or to talk when he drove from Ocean Shores to Capitol Forest with a trailer when I got my first flat tire a couple years back, to being able to call him and my mom at 2 a.m. to talk about something on my mind. These last 5 years or so, I started to see the old man appear and began having those thoughts about how I needed to make the time. I was worried about his health and money, and the last time I saw my dad in person was Thanksgiving over a year ago. The time flies by too fast. One of the last things I was most proud of my dad was his weight loss. I've struggled myself with being fat since 6th grade. My dad was even fatter. 4th of July, I believe 2020, we were at Steve and Darcy's for a family event, and I made a joke about how I'm starting to look like my dad, and Aunt Linda replies, "Yes, you are." And that was partly what started my own weight loss. Even recently, someone mentioned how I look like my dad, and I'm like, what the hell did I do? Anyway, it really was so great seeing him lose so much weight. He was down to around 220 pounds last we talked, and I remember thinking, oh shit, he's about to show me up. Well, Dad, you're out front. It wasn't quite the most ideal way, but I'm still proud of you. You made it. And don't worry, Dad, we won't be burying you out in the backyard with the dogs. We'll find some place perfect. Wrapping up, we're nearing the end of my story, and I want to make some call outs while preparing for today. Oh, there was a pause there. While preparing for today, I went through my dad's laptop where he had photos, lots of photos. We were talking some 15,000 photos, going all the way back to the 2015, all meticulously organized by year and month. It was very telling and emotional, and hours of effort to go through these. It told a story of the past decade, and it was very clear who and what were important to him most in his life. Photos of Magnaforce, my mom, Darren, Jackie, David, his brothers, other family, friends, the house on the beach, amazing sunsets, and the dogs. Oh, so many photos of the dogs. Thousands of photos of the dogs. This next part is going to be a little harder. This is 3 people that I wanna give a message to. To my wonderful Aunt Cheryl. My dad had some great photos of you and Uncle Mike. He always said good things about you. He loved my cousins, Matt and Maggie. And anytime we talked about your family, it was always with genuine praise and about how good you all were. I'm so thankful for the relationship my aunt and I have formed over the past few years. Aunt Cheryl, Uncle Mike, Megan, her husband Nick have been so accepting. It has been great seeing such a good, strong family with strong faith and values. It's awesome seeing their two young sons, Gunnar and Cooper, growing up in a strong family with strong moral values, rich faith, and involvement in their church. Aunt Cheryl, your relationship is important to me, as it was to my dad. We can have serious conversations, emotional, political, religious, philosophical. You have strong faith. My dad and I had talks now and then about you and religion and conversations that you and I had had. And he did get defensively riled up a couple times around. I told her not to push that religion stuff so much. But I see it for the spirit that it is. So to my aunt, the door to God is not closed to me, even if I haven't gone through it yet. Also, Aunt Cheryl, we won't tell the others, but you were very obviously my dad's favorite sibling. And I know that I was his favorite son. The only son, yes, but the favorite. To my dad's friend, Bernard, I only recently met you around 2 years ago. I really didn't know you, and I had no idea until recently that you have been a friend for 2 decades. I did have some unknown doubts while going through a decade of photos become quite clear. My dad loved to take photos of you sleeping. I'm grateful for the weekend I got to spend with my dad at your family's property in Eastern Washington. This will probably be one of my stronger final memories with him. Finally, to my mother. And all of the private conversations, he never said a single bad thing about you. He would get annoyed at having to remind you about taking your pills. But other than that, he had nothing but love for you. I'm so sorry that he's gone. You were a great mother, and he was a great dad. You both helped shape me into what I like to think is a good person. We don't know what the future holds for us. We were only 63, still so young. If we look at my grandparents, most lived and are living well into their 80s and 90s. So I hope you and I will have a good at least 1 to 2 more decades or more together. Now, selfishly, while I hope you live to be old, I do, in fact, hope to outlive you. Now, it's not looking too good for the men in the family, but we can hope. It has only been 1 month now. That feels both a long and short time. I want you to know that because you are still young, there may come a time where another man comes into your life. It may be a year from now or a month from now. I want you to know that you can do whatever will make you happy. And pursue another relationship if you need to. I think my dad would have wanted that, and he would have wanted you to be happy and not alone. I don't want you to feel like you have to grow old alone. And I don't want to visit you later alone in isolation, like like others in our family have had. Some may think this is too soon to even think about, but life moves fast, so I'll just make it known here and now. In closing, we're at the end. Through the years of my dad going through the loss of his own father and all of the things that entailed, I'm grateful that my dad spared me the same heartache. There was a joke made multiple times over the years about how being the only child meant I got to choose the retirement home they went to. I had vague worries about watching him grow old or long drawn out health issues or having to dig a pit to bury all of his belongings like he threatened to do with Grandpa Charlie. At 67, he may not have completed his life's work, but we're all proud of his accomplishments and the core values he held of being a hard worker, honest, doing the right things, and helping others. I wish he could have been a grandparent and that he could have lived to see his inventions turning to bigger things, but we can't change these. For those of faith, I have zero doubt that he is where he was meant to be, whether that's at the feet of God or spending time with his dad or working on inventions. I know he's in the right place now. Finally, thank you for listening, for attending today, in person or on the Zoom call, and thank you for being a part of his life.
Thank you, Brandon. I know your dad loved you. He was so proud of you. All right. Please bow your heads and join me in prayer as we close. Dear Heavenly Father, we celebrate the life of Jerry. We are comforting knowing that he will now be with you in paradise. Thank you for the blessing of his life and the love he shared with us. While we miss him dearly, we find peace in the promise of eternal life and the hope of being reunited with him one day. Please wrap us in your loving arms, give us strength and comfort as we carry his memory forward. We entrust his soul to you, knowing he is safe and at rest with you in heaven. Amen. Thank you again on behalf of the family coming to celebrate Jerry. Many thanks to everyone who helped set up and bring food. I think there is a lot of food, so nobody is leaving until you eat. Please stay, visit, share more memories of Jerry, and have a bite to eat. Thank you, everyone.
Good job, Johnson.
Thank you.
You would always tell me.
You know where that came from. Love you.
You're perfect.
Presentation.
Good job.
Thank you for doing that. I wouldn't be able to do the whole thing.
That's doing pretty good.
I'm glad you said something. I'm glad you Well, hot sweaty.
Yeah. Well, that's a long run. I was good at that.
I practiced one last night. 5 minutes. And my friend John asked her, like, how long is the sun just speed max? It's like 10 minutes. So,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Good job.
well,
Well, I think it's Oh, oh. Oh, yeah. Yeah, especially. Yeah, and a lot of them. Which other? We never seen it. You know, I like it a lot. It's his own. That's not. I got clear, so let's walk back here.
come on now, guys.
We're both dressed to the nines right
You are.
now.
You're looking like, oh my, well, let's see, look at it like this way. You're doing good. Oh. And then, there.
Perfect, thank you.
Take a look and see if you want an adjustment. You can Photoshop that eye a little bit. It's possible.
Perfect. So that
Those will
can-
work. You said?
And she is too. Yes, hard time. But you know, but we, yeah, and she, you know. Right, yeah, yeah.
I like that, young Jerry.
You got your card? Did you have to go buy them or did? The cords?
Oh, no, we had to read the.
Oh, you had to do the. I remember how they used to come out. This case. Well, you helped Adam get his first job. Well,
it's nice to see you. Yeah. Oh, I know. Everybody that won. Sure. Oh. No, it's his.
I met her the other day and, she wasn't in town. I sat down and talked to her. And, Carol and Grant left. Then I ate coffee. No, but she already. Did you do Maryland this morning?
Did you do Maryland?
Okay, somebody there. Just drove it.
Rolled up and send it back. Two girls, we don't want to hear it.
And so. I remember like.
Really smart. You can do applications in your head when you're calculating forces and velocities and stuff like that. And just flow out of it. Mathematically, equation. I could hardly. Yeah.
Does she do your hair? Grandma or
That she gave a good shampoo, very important.
To the laundry room and wash and dryer with backside of the closet in the other room. So I framed in the closet doors and touched the pocket door. Make sure that is we actually had to jackhammer the slab, punch under the foundation. Best thing we could do for that. And then we were about 4 feet into the garage. Right there in the first place, get it out. People love it. Beautiful, intimate thing. We put a professional glass door on it. Yeah. And then you get the landscaping outside and a fresh sidewalk. It really pops. Look, oh yes. Try the big side up.
Not the same.
No, that was Jerry. Okay. Yeah.
Like we got to do like after we go in that day for the test. And then it was. And then we were hanging. That was the test. And then the next one. And
Like the bionic.
That's my shoulder, that's my hip, that's my neck.
Yeah, I know.
We turned out to be done.
Word there is.
I thought. I go into the doctor.
Oh, you're thinking. They work for murder.
Hope you all, up to date about.
Yeah, guys.
Alrighty. I had a really good trip. But I learned some things about Jerry. later. I'll see you guys next week. I'll see you later, Joel.
Bye, guys.
All its babes.
A lot of the hard parts for research. Well, they love for you.
He's funny. When you were saying you tapping, I'm like, oh, look what that would have been like. Either way.
Well, which bus were you on? Long? He could learn anything. His own board. I can do by the all that stuff. Know something.
You did it.
Wonderful talking to you. Thank you.
Because you can, every time you get water machine, that over, and then you just start dragging it. For now, we're gonna get him, we're gonna get him a ball that shoots on the house. Dad used to. Huh? You know. See him. See him. I'm sharing pictures. I'm sharing pictures. Okay.
I just do stuff.
Another candidate.
It's beautiful. Oh, no. Are you sure? Somebody else. Yeah. That reminds me of my A and my man. And my so I was just. And I just. Phillies, Phillies.
Getting my work done. I get more done, more work done in early morning hours than I do the rest of the day.
Oh, you got some? Oh, yeah. He'll just send me. Yeah, the kid. Yeah, that's why. You can keep it like, right?
That's probably easy for me to say.
Oh, look, you can see this. Just look at it. It's his. Look up in the sky and the bird. No, it's a plane. It's Super Jerry. Faster than a magnetic field. More powerful than Chinese magic. Oh, look at Super Jerry. Somebody must have made that for him. I don't know. I don't know. Doesn't say. That's really.
In the last year.
One guy.
Most of them. I know that. I'm actually bored. I didn't realize the president. He the ones of us. Have a place now, most of us. Most of us. You didn't say where, almost.
It's just a count. Oh, yeah. Might have been good.
It's coming back. Come down there with
Okay, I'll see you up there.
Okay.
actually usually business. Are you?
Hey, Brandon. I was gonna close this, but there was a bunch of comments. I didn't know. Just didn't want to close it. I did too, but I looked that and popped up and I was gonna close it and I see it, I'm like.